Your Body's a Wonderland by John Mayer. This is a version he did on the Grammys. Features a couple interesting things that you don't hear in any other versions. So let's get to it. He starts the tune off by going between these two really nice chords. And he flips between the two chords. He'll throw the open 6th string in there, which has been tuned down to a D. So Body's a Wonderland features a drop D. You can do the harmonic on the 12th fret of the 5th string and 7th fret of the 6th, and when they're the same, you got a D. So that chord, which I'll pop up on the side, it shifts down 2 frets on the higher notes, but only 1 fret down on the lower notes. So the bass goes like this, while the high notes are. So let's just go over this first finger thumb thing. It's kind of random. He does it without thinking too much. So this is, instead of taking all your fingers and jamming them one on each string and going like dust in the wind or something like that, you're actually just going to use these 2 fingers and just alternate them. He kind of bails on it. He just goes, leaves it hanging, and then he goes into the main theme, which is basically an F power chord. And he's pretty much just sounding these 3 notes, but you can throw the 4th one on there if you borrow your 3rd finger at the 10th fret on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. So you got this going. So he starts by plucking the F on the 5th string, and then he'll snatch with his 2 fingers the 2 higher notes, and a slap, and then you pull them all together. So this is looped throughout the song. It's this. So the first time is just the low note by itself, followed by the 2 higher notes by themselves, a slap on the 5th string, and then all 3 notes together. And you can throw the higher one in there if you want. For the slapping, I try to slap on the note I'm going to play next. So when I'm going to pluck them all together, I'm going to have my thumb in place already and my 2 fingers hooked in to pull the chords out. So after he does this, he kind of moves the bass line. So instead of playing that bass note, you're just going to flip over to the 10th fret of the 6th, and then the 8th frets of the 6th. It's still doing the same thing with the higher chords. Oops, but I got to play it right. And my slaps are changing depending on the string I'm going to play next. So after he does this for a bit, he goes into this pre-chorus part. And what's going on there is he moves into the fretting of the strings on the 6th with his thumb now. It's bound to happen sooner or later. But he throws that in there. And so on the higher chord here, he's got this going. And he switches between this, and then he kind of lifts his 3rd finger a bit so that the 2nd string, 8th fret, sounds out, and you get this. So he alternates between those 2 chords with this new kind of thumb bass note on the 8th fret to start off with. And he doesn't fret anything new, but he just kind of accents the higher notes of that chord the 3rd time he picks it. So I'll go through it really slow. Another thing to notice is that he kind of starts with the low note, and then he plucks everything, the low note and the high chord at the same time. And then he's got the slap, And then he does the little chord change where he rolls his third finger up, so you get that note there, all strings together. And then just the bass note, and then the high part of that chord. Slap, and then he goes into the low string, and then he'll change the bass line up to go up to the 10th fret. Important thing to remember is the bass line actually goes like, and you've got to maintain that throughout. So that involves you alternating. You don't really alternate the low and the high chords like you do in the intro. It's you're always playing the high chords with the low note for the most part. The fretting with the thumb on the 10th fret will take some getting used to, but it's certainly attainable if you practice. And again, on the chords, we're just accenting the higher parts. Then he goes into this nice chord run-up. And he goes into the main theme again. So that chord run-up is basically two chord shapes. So you kind of bar the 3rd fret from the 3rd string down. Then you fret the 5th string. Sorry, you fret the 4th string at the 5th fret, and then thumb the 5th fret. So you get this. And you open it up with an open string, and then you snatch the chord, slap, open. Then the chord shape changes a bit, almost like a major chord. But because the 6th string has been tuned down 2 frets, instead of playing this, you're actually playing this. So, and then you hit the open 5th string and back into the main intro verse thing. From then, he gets into the middle part, which is really interesting. That is that is this really weird chord. He plucks the open 6th string, and then he's got, starting on the 4th string, 10th fret, and then the 3rd string, 7th fret, and then the 2nd string, 6th fret. But he plucks the whole thing at the same time. And then he moves into the 5th string open, and as he hits that, he's sliding up this chord, and it's still sounding at this point, so you get this kind of thing. It happens more or less at the same time. And then you actually add a note on that chord once it's slid up, 10th fret, 5th string, and you have this sounding. So altogether that's... Oops. And then he does this strumming thing, and it's kind of a flick thumb slap thing. So he kind of starts with hitting the... you slap at the same time you have your first finger striking somewhere near the bottom 2 strings. And I'm kind of used coming up with my thumb. It almost sounds like but there's a definite flick slap in there. You'll hear the percussiveness of it. And then the second time he does a very interesting slide. So he goes back into that part, but instead of sliding it up, he actually arpeggiates the notes and slides. You'll hear this note slide up from the 7th fret to the 9th fret. Okay, so it kind of sounds like this. Into the flicky stuff. And he does that 2 more times. It's very, it's different every time he plays it. Sometimes he kind of gets late, sometimes he gets ahead, but it all sounds pretty neat. And the thing that really fills it out is the percussiveness of the... So just to make sure we have that again. It's reminiscent of Stop This Train and a couple other songs where he's... So if you want to look up the John Mayer flick slap technique, it's explained in some other tutorials. And it just really involves the thumb hitting and the first finger flicking at the same time. So if you do that a bunch of times, you kind of get the idea. Very subjective. Or you can just arpeggiate the whole thing. It's totally up to you. After we come out of that, we get into that really nice bit. I'm just going to play you the audio from the actual performance. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, that was the part that did it for me when I saw him do that live on the Grammys. Freaking amazing. So basically he's got this bass thing happening. And in between these bass notes, he's which is fretting with his thumb, by the way. Even on the 5th string, 7th fret, he's fretting that with his thumb. And in between that, he's got this. So that's just the 5th fret barred at the 3rd string and the 2nd string. And he's kind of hammering on 3rd string, 7th fret, 2nd string, 6th fret. And you can pluck that with whatever fingers you feel comfortable. I seem to use my middle 2 here. And a lot of times it's alternating. You'll have the bass note. That kind of thing. I'll put the tab up so you can kind of get exactly what's going on, but that's just like a rough feel of it. By the time he hits the 3rd bass note, that's usually sounded at the same time as the chord. That kind of thing. Sometimes he does these little slides. So that just takes that 2nd chord shape, slides it up too, and back down sometimes. I'll go through the whole thing fairly slow. I'll go through the whole thing slow, but play it right. You notice sometimes too I'm fretting the, or I'm just going and using the open 5th string. It's totally up to you. It's very random. And he ends it off with this. And then he gets into that syncopated. And that needs a bit of explaining right there. What he's doing is he's barring the 10th fret from about the 4th string down. And it's kind of a loose bar. And he's applying pressure when he needs to. So that kind of little bit slow sounds like. So exactly what's going on is he's slapping, I slap on the 4th string, I kind of pluck it, and then I snatch these three strings, and I do another muted pluck. So altogether it's slap, muted pluck, snatch the chord, pluck. That's the first bit. The second part is another slap. I slap on the string up above that, the 5th string, and I kind of do 2 muted plucks, and it's kind of a rake. So, did you get that? So it's slap, pluck the string I slapped on, fall off that string onto the next one, pluck that one, and that muted pluck, and then snatch the whole thing, and another muted pluck. Let's just take it really slow, just to make sure I got that right. And it's kind of a triplet thing you're doing here for that little rake. That that's the, you hear but some harmonic overtones coming out there. The other thing is occasionally he is not fretting that chord so deliberately that it's actually sounding. A lot of times he'll let that fourth string, the open D, come out. So you'll hear this. Trying to it's hard when you actually consciously try to let that ring out. That kind of thing. And then he'll actually, the second time he goes through it, he'll actually add this 12th fret second string. And then he goes back into the main theme.